Sunlight once glittered across those infamous royal yacht decks, but no one ever imagined the past would resurface with such explosive force. Yet here we are. Sarah Ferguson has just dropped a fresh batch of Yacht Days photos with Prince Andrew, and the images are raising eyebrows across the monarchy. Behind those snapshots lie shocking claims, whispered motives, and a chapter Meghan never thought would return to haunt her. But what exactly did Fergie reveal this time? And why has it left Meghan absolutely stunned? How Meghan Markle became the target after Andrew's crash. Prince Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor, uncle to Prince Harry, has been back in the spotlight, though not in the way any royal would hope. After years of controversy surrounding his association with the late convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein, the pressure on the monarchy finally reached a breaking point. As a result, Andrew was stripped of his royal titles, military honors, and public duties. The man once known as the Duke of York suddenly found himself without the privileges he had carried for most of his life. The consequences didn't stop there. His older brother, King Charles III, who has taken a firm stance on protecting the monarchy's image, made another decisive move. He asked Andrew to vacate his longtime home, the Royal Lodge, a grand residence he had occupied for decades. For many, this was the clearest sign yet that the king intended to draw a sharp line between the future of the monarchy and the mistakes of his brother's past. But as soon as Andrew's fall from grace became official, the online world erupted. Social media platforms, already fertile ground for rumors, conspiracy theories, and sensational claims, went into overdrive. Bloggers, commentators, and anonymous accounts began suggesting, without evidence, that there were hidden or secret photographs of Prince Andrew with Meghan Markle, the Duchess of Sussex. These whispers spread like wildfire, feeding on the public's curiosity about both Andrew's scandals and Meghan's complicated relationship with the royal family. Meghan, who has long been a target of intense media scrutiny and online bullying, found herself dragged into a storm she had nothing to do with. Conspiracy theorists resurrected old debunked claims branding her a yacht girl, a term used by online trolls attempting to smear her reputation by linking her to glamorous but fabricated past activities. These claims had been repeatedly proven false, yet the moment Andrew became a trending topic again,
Safely say from my experience and all the traveling that I've done all over the world, speaking to people,
some people seized the opportunity to attach Meghan's name to the drama. The situation became even more chaotic when certain users began circulating old, grainy photographs claiming they showed Meghan on a yacht with Prince Andrew. The posts insisted the images were recently released by Andrew's ex-wife, Sarah Ferguson, popularly known as Fergie. According to the rumors, Fergie had supposedly shared the pictures as part of some revenge-driven or attention-seeking act. However, fans and lovers of Meghan claim to have confirmed that none of this was true. They claimed that the photos released by Sarah Ferguson were not recent, and not even of Meghan Markle. Most were images of completely different women, taken years before Meghan ever entered royal life. Still, the narrative continued to spread. Meghan aboard a yacht with Andrew. Meghan mixed in scandals she had no connection to. Meghan being exposed. The posts were designed to stir trouble, attract clicks, and add another layer of confusion to an already complicated royal climate. What made the rumor even more believable to some was the timing. Andrew had just suffered the humiliation of losing titles and being pushed out of his home. Meghan, on the other hand, remained a polarizing figure in certain corners of the internet, where anything involving her is guaranteed to generate attention. Adding her name to Andrew's downfall created a perfect storm, one that conspiracy theorists were eager to exploit. Despite all this noise, some have denied the facts, claiming that there is no evidence Meghan ever had any connection to Andrew's controversies, nor is there any real photograph linking them in the way the rumors claimed. They claim that the entire situation reflects how quickly misinformation spreads, and how easily public figures, especially women like Meghan, become targets of baseless attacks. In the end, Andrew's crisis was entirely his own making. But as the online frenzy showed, when the royal family stumbles, the shockwaves often hit people who were nowhere near the fall. But when were these pictures taken? Where did they take the pictures? Were they taken at a casual or special occasion? While Meghan was stunned upon the revelation, let's delve into the details of the party where monsters toasted a princess's future. The Forbidden Garden Party. One afternoon in July 2006, somewhere in the Royal Lodge, that summer afternoon looked so perfect that it almost feels unreal. Soft gold sunlight slips through the tall, ancient oaks surrounding Royal Lodge, giving everything a warm, peaceful glow. The quiet clink of crystal glasses floats through the air like tiny bells. Prince Andrew, dressed neatly in crisp chinos and wearing a smile broad enough to outshine the sun, strolls around his private Windsor estate like a proud host preparing his kingdom. It is meant to be a gentle, informal gathering before the grand celebration of Princess Beatrice's 18th birthday later that night, a masked ball at Windsor Castle expected to host 400 dazzling guests. But here in the Prince's Hidden Garden Oasis,
you can, on occasions, get extremely lonely and isolated.
Full of rose-covered arches, smooth green lawns, and fountains that whisper as they fall, Andrew has invited people no one would imagine seeing at a royal tea, people whose reputations were already sinking into the darkest corners of the world. Then, like characters stepping out of a nightmare, they arrive one by one. The trio many would later call the Devil's Guests. Jeffrey Epstein, wearing his trademark aviator sunglasses and an unsettling grin, appears first. Just 2 months earlier, feeding caviar to Andrew's corgis like she is rehearsing for a villainous role. Her presence alone makes the air feel thinner. And finally, Harvey Weinstein arrives, massive, sweating slightly, already known behind closed doors for frightening young actresses. None of this happened by mistake. Andrew personally invited them. Flight logs later confirmed that Epstein's private jet landed at Farnborough Airport that very morning. And in 2025, when leaked photos finally surfaced, blurry yet deeply disturbing, they showed everything. Epstein lounging casually on a wicker chair, Maxwell leaning in close to whisper something into Andrew's ear, and Weinstein walking arm in arm with Princess Beatrice, who looked shy and unaware of the shadows around her. People who worked that day later remembered Andrew boasting proudly, "Jeffrey is the best connector you'll ever meet. He opens doors everywhere." The statement now feels like a dark prophecy. Before the evening's masked ball, the infamous trio slipped quietly away. No official photographs, no guest list entries, no public acknowledgement. Only murmurs from palace staff, whispered from one footman to another. Those are His Royal Highness's special friends. Words that would haunt the monarchy years later. Now in November 2025, the once lovely gardens of Royal Lodge stand abandoned, overgrown, and heavy with silence. Ivy coils around stone walls like nature, trying to bury old secrets. But every new release of Epstein-related documents drags those secrets back into daylight. The 2025 Vault 7 leak alone mentioned Prince Andrew's name 137 times. Each occurrence another echo of choices made in that garden nearly 2 decades earlier. When King Charles delivered his ultimatum, threatening to strip Andrew of titles, it wasn't sudden, and it wasn't vengeful. It was the weight of years of hidden rot finally collapsing. A monarchy trying desperately to breathe again after choking on the poison that entered Royal Lodge on that deceptively beautiful July afternoon. For Royal Lodge was never just a home. On that day, it became a stage for a quiet, unspoken tragedy. A place where a prince entertained men who would one day define the darkest chapter of his life. While the glamorous event took place several years ago, what is it like in the same building? Let's dive into the details of the transition from fake family bliss to a frozen civil war. The 30-room Ice Palace. Today, a walk through the old wooden doors of Royal Lodge gives a unique experience. An icy stillness, the kind that clings to your skin and whispers that something is wrong. This mansion, almost 3 centuries old, once shone with grandeur. Its 30 rooms. Ballrooms decorated with fading gold paint, long halls lined with portraits no one dusts anymore, and secret little attic corners where laughter once hid used to feel alive. There was a time when this house echoed with a strange sort of cheerfulness, a performance of happiness that fooled the cameras, if not the people inside it. Once upon a time, Andrew and Sarah lived here like the friendliest divorced couple on the planet. Divorced since 1996, yet always together. Matching outfits at Ascot, cozy holidays at Balmoral, joint appearances that made the world smile and wonder. Sarah even told Oprah once proudly, "We're the tripod, unbreakable." It sounded sweet, it sounded strong, but it wasn't true, not even close. Now, Royal Lodge feels like a house that has turned against its owners. It groans with secrets, it holds grudges, and between its grand walls, a cold war is raging, drawn out across Persian rugs, old hallways, and two hearts that have finally stopped pretending. In the East Wing sits Andrew, hiding from the world and from himself. His study, once polished and warm with oak walls, now looks like a storage unit. Boxes tower everywhere, many stamped with a painful label, Sandringham Exile. His future, packed away before his eyes. He spends his days drifting around in worn-out pajamas, puffing on expensive cigars that fill the room with a heavy smell. He devours military thrillers as if they can rescue him. The curtains stay closed. His phone stays silent. He has shut out the world completely. Across the mansion, the West Wing holds Sarah, and her space tells its own story. Her Duchess den is cluttered with half-open Louis Vuitton trunks, clothes spilling out, tissues tossed on the floor like fallen petals. She walks the corridors at 3 a.m., wrapped in silk robes, unable to rest. Sometimes she stops the night porter, one of the few staff who still dares to speak to her, and whispers, "Please don't go." The echoes, they're screaming. Her voice trembles when she says it, and no one knows how to comfort her anymore. Everything changed the day Andrew delivered a final, brutal message. "Sarah is poison. Keep your distance." And the staff obeyed. Strictly. Meals now arrive on separate trays, carried carefully so they never cross paths. If their eyes meet in the hallway, the air turns ice cold. Andrew mutters, "Movers on Tuesday," and Sarah turns away before her face breaks. Dinners, once staged for flashy photographers, have become lonely rituals. Andrew stabs at cold pheasant in silence while Sarah hides in the butler's pantry with soup and a small flask of gin tucked beneath folded linens. Two people living side by side, yet isolated as though miles apart. Sarah's unraveling is painful to watch. This is a woman who survived cruel headlines, endless debts, and global embarrassment. But now she sits alone at the bar that once belonged to Jeffrey Epstein, drinking until the sun creeps up. "I can't be alone," she cries to the maids. "This house knows everything we did." Her friends whisper behind closed doors that she feels betrayed. "After Epstein? After Giuffre? I stood by him," she rages. "And this is how he repays me?" Anger barely describes it. She is burning, planning, plotting, while curled under feathered blankets. And the air inside Royal Lodge? Thick, heavy, poisoned by all the things neither of them says out loud. "You knew about the flights. You nearly ruined us with your debts. The house isn't falling apart. It's exploding from the inside. And when the dust finally settles, the damage may reach far beyond these haunted rooms, threatening to expose truths the monarchy hoped would stay buried forever." So, what has made Sarah remain in his house, despite being divorced for so long? Could they be having a secret deal? Let's dig into the details of the real glue holding the duo together. The Blood Pact. For nearly 20 years, the world was fed a charming story about Prince Andrew and Sarah Ferguson, two divorced exes who somehow managed to live together in a quirky, heartwarming arrangement. But behind the soft focus fairy tale was something far more tangled, far more calculated, and far more unsettling. Their cohabitation wasn't romance or eccentricity, it was a pact of survival, a quiet code of silence built on fear, debt, and the kind of secrets that could ruin lives. What looked playful from the outside was, in truth, an agreement shaped by panic and polished by mutual blackmail.
And we went into this nightclub, and she was very good at her costume.
Sarah, for her part, received undeniable benefits. Between 1996 and 2019, she quietly enjoyed more than £15 million in bailouts from the Queen, financial lifelines that kept her afloat whenever her spending outran her luck. A royal address worked like a force field. Creditors hesitated, bills were brushed aside, and uncomfortable questions melted away. Her daughters, Beatrice and Eugenie, retained their royal shine, shielded from the storms that followed their mother. But Sarah paid a steep price. She became the butt of endless tabloid jokes, labeled freeloader Fergie, with the kind of persistence that could bruise even the thickest skin. And every benefit she enjoyed came with a shadow. Andrew's scandals unfolding at close range, from Epstein's presence to shady flights, enigmatic friends, and whispers of NDAs floating around in the background. Silence became her currency and her burden. Her own failures didn't make life easier. Sarah's ventures collapsed one after another, the glossy lifestyle magazines swallowing £40,000 monthly before collapsing, her Hartmore fashion company sinking beneath a pile of legal battles. The infamous £27,000 Las Vegas hotel bill she simply abandoned. Each disaster left her turning back to Andrew, who became her dependable escape hatch. He secured perks, crafted alibis, and occasionally tugged at the Queen's sympathy for yet another emergency check. But his generosity wasn't pure kindness. Sarah wasn't just a responsibility. She was a shield. Andrew needed her. She had seen too much. She was there during the years he played trade envoy, jetting between 2001 and 2006 in the company of Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell. She remembered Weinstein stepping forward with connections for young Beatrice. She stood in the garden during that infamous 2006 moment when Andrew casually remarked, "Jeffrey gifted us everything." She knew precisely which strings had been pulled, which friendships were dangerous, which events the public must never hear about. If anyone tried to drag up Sarah's old 1992 toe-sucking scandal to discredit her, she held the power to dismantle Andrew's most desperate claims, including the now-mocked "I never sweated" defense. She ran their home like a fixer, soothing insulted royal relatives, arranging staged happy family photos whenever the narrative needed softening, and giving Andrew convenient cover whenever Charles rang with threats of eviction. It was a strange life, almost theatrical, built on rehearsed smiles and whispered calculations. Over time, the arrangement trapped them both. They had no real friends left, no independent lives, no fresh beginnings. They weren't a couple.
I think Andrew, actually, you designed it, didn't you?
I helped in this design.
What do you mean with sketches and things?
They were two people locked in a tangle of shared risk, shared guilt, and shared dependence. Like vines twisting around each other, they clung tightly not out of affection, but because separation meant exposure. Their rule was simple. If one talked, both sank. And for nearly 2 decades, the rule held. Every scandal stayed muffled. Every rumor drowned. Every questionable flight and questionable friend tucked away. Their lives became a long, tense balancing act. Silent, calculated, unbreakable. But then the new reign arrived, and Charles brought his axe. Suddenly, the fairy tale dissolved. The quirky arrangement didn't look quirky anymore. It looked exactly like what it had always been. A fragile alliance built on secrets too dangerous to speak, and a silence that was never meant to last forever. What will become of the duo after vacating the Royal Lodge by January? Will they be able to hide from the spotlights? Let's find out. Swiping for salvation. Sometimes the smallest spark lights the biggest explosion, and for Prince Andrew and Sarah Ferguson, the timing could not be more dangerous. Everything is shifting at once. Eviction deadlines are approaching like ticking bombs. Andrew is expected to be shuffled off to the misty, lonely grounds of Sandringham Cottage by January 2026, while Sarah's next stop remains a mystery. And as the walls close in, both of them have suddenly taken to the digital jungle of elite dating apps, each quietly searching for fresh company before the final curtain falls. Andrew's profile is exactly what you'd expect from a man who knows the world is watching. Discreet gentleman, 65, seeking a sophisticated companion. Privacy essential, dogs welcome. A smooth way of saying, no one who might type my name into Google. Everything about it whispers caution, like he's trying to step back into society while still hiding in the shadows. Sarah, on the other hand, is operating through a soft whisper network among her friends, wine glasses in hand during late-night Zoom chats. "I just want passion, without palaces," she says with a dramatic sigh. "A man who actually sees me."
And how right she was. And today we talk about Lisa Marie. We look at Priscilla.
She positions herself as a romantic heroine escaping a lonely castle, even though the castle in question is the decaying royal lodge she still shares with Andrew. But why is all this happening now, at the exact moment their shared home is collapsing around them, figuratively and literally? The answer insiders give is simple: emotional exit strategies. They're preparing a soft landing before they're forced apart physically. A new boyfriend for Sarah means she finally has the confidence, freedom, and perhaps the motivation to speak openly about things she's kept buried. And Andrew finding a new companion gives him a shield, someone to distract him from the frantic late-night calls he fears might come once Sarah is no longer under the same roof. Royal watchers and insiders are already salivating because they believe that distance will destroy the one thing that has kept the Duke and Duchess quiet: proximity. Once they no longer share the same walls, the unspoken pact crumbles. And then the real trouble begins, because what happens when Sarah decides to write again? Her 2011 memoir was basically a gentle pat on the wrist compared to what she could say now. Friends claim she has stories she never dared put on paper, stories about late nights, the famous Tramp nightclub, and those whispered invitations connected to certain islands and certain names Andrew desperately wants forgotten. On the other side, imagine Andrew alone in Norfolk during long, icy winter nights. Nothing to do, nowhere to go, nothing to lose. A man convinced he has been misunderstood.
Hug and public displays of affection are not something that I do.
A man who might, out of loneliness or pride, decide it's time to share his version of events. Perhaps a book titled something like My Side, The Real Epstein. The palace would choke on its morning tea. Then there's the slow burn disaster, old NDAS being hacked, forgotten party footage resurfacing from 2006, rumors that Ghislaine Maxwell once filmed Princess Beatrice's birthday cake cutting, small leaks that create big storms. Meanwhile, Royal Lodge itself has become a haunting symbol of everything going wrong. What used to be a grand residence now looks like the backdrop of a historical tragedy. Staff members are quietly requesting transfers. Epstein's old bar, once a place of laughter, drinks, and questionable guests, is covered in dust. The once lively party rooms are shut down, draped in sheets like abandoned crime scenes. The gardens are wild and overgrown, resembling a forgotten graveyard, more than royal grounds. Inside, Andrew keeps himself hidden away like a man under siege, while Sarah roams the hallways, restless and frustrated. Their so-called dinners have become tense negotiations whispered over cold, unappealing leftovers. No warmth, no conversation, just two people calculating moves. Your things need to be out by Epiphany. Fine, but don't touch my desk. Two people living in ruins, emotional, physical, and royal. Two wild cards ready to ignite the powder keg. As the royal watchers and fans count down, what kind of future awaits the stripped royal and his ex? Let's delve into the details of who blinks first when the last truck leaves. The eve of explosion. Picture the New Year's Eve, 2026. A gray sky hangs over Windsor as the last moving van grinds down the gravel driveway of Royal Lodge. Inside it are the final traces of Andrew and Sarah Ferguson's old life. Andrew's delicate porcelain corgi statues wrapped in bubble wrap. Sarah's dusty fox hunting trophies stacked beside boxes of forgotten memories. The gates close slowly behind the van, groaning as if reluctant to let go of the chaos they have sheltered for decades. Then the lock clicks. Silence falls, heavy and absolute. But that silence is only the pause before the explosion, the moment before years of secrets burst open. Because when Royal Lodge empties, the reckoning begins. People expect a quiet retreat or mutual dignity. But nothing about Andrew or Sarah has ever been quiet or dignified. And with the safety net of the lodge gone, their worlds start cracking open. Sarah, drowning in debts that have risen beyond £3.7 million, no longer enjoys the cushion of royal protection. Without that shield, the bailiffs come early, the pressure mounts fast, and desperation starts tightening around her.
I'm the generational bridge because I'm still very young, in case you hadn't realized. Yeah, exactly.
Desperation always leads to disclosure. And Sarah knows the power of her story. She has written memoirs before, but never like the one she is now capable of producing. If she chooses to speak, the revelations could be volcanic. She carries memories of flight logs people pretend don't exist, favors granted quietly, and bailouts arranged by the late Queen that were never meant to be public knowledge. Sarah has lived too close to too many scandals to walk away silently, especially now that silence offers her nothing. Andrew, meanwhile, slips into a damp and lonely corner of Norfolk, stripped of title, status, allies, and the familiar luxury of his old estate. His resentment grows with the cold. He has always believed he was treated unfairly, blamed for sins he insists were misunderstandings, and isolated by a family eager to distance itself from him. If Sarah fires the first shot, Andrew's response will not be calm or controlled. It will be loud, angry, and laced with the kinds of claims that only a man who feels betrayed is willing to make. Stories of how close Ghislaine Maxwell once was to the royal inner circle, ordeals whispered long ago in rooms now locked and forgotten. Caught in the crossfire are Beatrice and Eugenie, who have spent years carefully crafting an image of goodwill, charity, and warmth. When their parents ignite the public theater of accusation and revelation, their own pasts become fair game. Old wedding photos are re-evaluated, financial gifts examined, innocent moments questioned. The daughters may plead with their parents to stop before they scorch the last intact pieces of the family name. But please rarely stop a fire once the match is lit. King Charles watches from a distance, perhaps with an uncomfortable mixture of concern and relief. A royal family narrowed to the Waleses has always been his vision. And though he would never wish for disaster, the collapse of royal lodges' fragile peace pushes the monarchy even closer to the streamlined institution he wants.
So whatever faith you have or whether you have none, it is in this life-giving light.
The public, on the other hand, watches with a kind of feverish fascination. Social media ignites. Every new rumor, leaked text, or rediscovered photo becomes fuel. The hashtag that emerges refuses to die, turning the downfall of Royal Lodge into a global spectacle. And through it all, the house itself stands empty, yet not quiet. Its walls have absorbed years of whispered conversations, late-night visits, and signatures inked on documents that were never meant to be seen. The garden, especially, holds shadows of an evening in 2006. The cigar smoke, the nervous laughter, the NDAs quietly passed across the table, the innocence forever altered. The only question left is simple. Who speaks first? All signs point to Sarah. She has nothing left to protect. Andrew will follow, not calmly, but furiously. Royal Lodge will not fade quietly into history. It will erupt, and everyone watching will feel the heat when it does. So, what do you think about Sarah's revelation confirming Meghan's yacht days with Andrew? We would love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe.